So I'm delighted to introduce tonight's guest speakers. We have Teresa Bates, Vice President of Sovereign at Work Relationship Manager. And with her are Nina Renna, there she is, Branch Manager of the Cedar Grove Sovereign Branch, Kevin Cade, District Executive, and Cynthia Reed Pocock of Santander University. So we welcome you and we're pleased to have you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Great. Cynthia and I are here. We wanted to, just before we start off the program, a quick question. Just think about it. Think about this. You don't have to necessarily share, but it's an important question that as we go through the seminar, I want you to really think about it. And maybe later on as we start having part of the interactive seminar, it'll come out. Think about your financial goals. What keeps you up at night? Just keep that in the back of your head as we go through the program. That's a really important question. What financially, I should say, keeps you up at night?
Yeah, a lot of things.
Go ahead.
Just a little bit more background about us. All of us here have been branch managers many years. And I see people in public constantly with reams of financial questions and goals and sleepless nights and so forth. So if we need to veer, please let us know into an area that's of interest specifically. We don't have to touch on it. We're very flexible. We can change off the agenda. We brought you the FDIC approved curriculum so you could see it, but we're very capable of going off that for you. I used to teach a class of Eugene Lawson Learning Institute in New York City. It was for people who were trying to get back into work. And they were all ages, very much like the alumni here. And the questions they asked range from the most basic to the most complex. That helps us to sort of start where we need to kind of talk to you at. And you can qualify it if you want to. Say, I'm financially unaware about this, but I will know a lot about that. So,
My name is Tom, and I guess, oh, I know. Something like financially.
wealth building, that's all of our agenda. There's not a soul
I
alive.
had a bank lose a lot of money. They were very good at it.
Huh?
My name is John Lewis. I guess somewhere in between two very young children. So I guess I'm kind of curious about that. I was looking for retirement, not that far. I can go to college. So.
A few steps before retirement.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
My name is Brittany, and I would say I'm somewhere in the middle,
Okay.
like most of us, I think. And I would like to really hear about savings and investing, specifically savings, because I can't really seem to get a handle on it.
Yes, no kidding. I think that's a universal feeling.
Hi, I'm Michaela. This is my last semester. So, I mean, I'm good with saving money, but I feel like for the most part I'm financially unaware. I would like to discuss living on your own for the first time, because that's a transition I'm making, so.
We need to do the budgeting seminar for her.
Yeah. There's already 30 seminars out of all of this stuff. We're trying to think how we're going to make this.
Yeah, Bob, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm aware enough to stay out of debt, not so good with the goals.
Well done.
Hi, my name is Marcial. How are you, everyone? I'm financially aware of my student debt. I'm oblivious to everything else. That's where I stand.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I consider myself astute, but I seem to be able to deal with the small things, not the large things. You know, I can save every day. I make the most of my money. I'm, saving for retirement, paying for college tuition, paying for private school, and doing all these things. But then my 401k, took a tumble in 2008, as did everyone else, and then I panicked and moved it. Yeah, I know. But Susie Orman said, if you're up at night, just do it. Because I was going to either lose my mind or lose money. So I lost the money, which was fine. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. So I want to know how to make up for time. I have about 8 more years to retirement. And, I'm almost at the end of my career. So that's good. So, yeah, that's kind of the 401.
Yeah, got one.
I started young. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Beatrice, and I would like to consider myself a student. And I'm interested in mostly in investment, that area.
You have this is not unlike what a lot of classes I have. We have home ownership, we have investing, we have recouping investment, we have, living on your own for the first time, retiring, and where's my list? Wealth building, which is universal, of course, and then student debt, which can be applied to a lot of us here. Just debt in general, that works as well. So it's going to be hard to frame this because the gamut. What's the time frame?
The time frame's in an hour.
The gamut. I mean, I could do an hour seminar on home ownership, an hour on retirement, an hour on young children for school. I mean, so it'll be like, I'm going to let you kind of pick which.
We're actually going to touch on all the savings vehicles that the bank has to offer, and then some of the investment vehicles, which some of you might already be aware, but we did promise that we would go over the basics of investing. We talk a little bit about how to save every day for those everyday expenses. I think we will hit on all of it, but to get in depth about your own personal situation, that's where Nina would come in and she would be able to set up an appointment. She's 3 miles away. She could meet you here, you could meet her locally in her branch, and she can dig deeper and really help you with recouping that, and home ownership issues. So, but, we'll stick to the committed agenda, and if we
Also,
veer
after
off,
we
that's
finish,
okay.
we can do a little bit of
Around,
individual stuff
yes,
if you
absolutely.
need. So if we don't touch on what you need specifically, because you do have, it's a challenging group, I would say. It's a
And feel
wonderful
free,
one.
as you can see, we're very open and on it. Just if you feel you want to interject something, I'm not going to wait to the end for questions. If you just want to interject a question or a comment, a thought, please feel free to do that. But right now, I want to refer you to your little handout. This is called Pay Yourself First, and it helps with wealth building and daily budgeting and just overall savings. Maybe saving for that, the 2 children that have to eventually go to college down the road. It's never too soon to start saving for that. Trust me, I have a junior in high school. Thought I did a great job, did not. And we don't want a lot of debt, right? Student debt. So with that, hopefully by the end of this course, you'll be able to learn how to manage your money a little better, how you can increase your savings, and what you can do to improve your standard of living, which is what we all really want to do. I guess turn to page 4 of your handout, please. We gave you a pen. Just jot down, this is for you, I'm not asking you to share, but this is something that I want you to take away and review. What are your savings goals? Just give you a minute to write that down. You'll see from the front of your guide, it says, pay yourself first. What do you think that means? Pay yourself first.
Within your savings account first.
That's right. Before you pay any bills, treat yourself as a debt collector. Transfer right from your paycheck right into a savings account. Pay yourself first. Probably thinking, what is she, crazy? At the end of each pay, I don't have any money left. What is she not? No, we have to figure out a budget on how we can get money, whether it's $50 a paycheck, $5, $100. Always pay yourself first. Because what's going to happen at the end, if we do it at the back end, we're going to say, okay, well, I have an extra $30 or $40 or $100 or $500. I'm going to spend it. It's just human nature. So if you put it away, pay yourself first, and think I'm not touching that, that's how we can start to build. But that's just basically what that means. So what are some things that we do save for? In general, not necessarily what you wrote down, but in general, what do we save for?
College, vacation, down payment for some
House?
car.
College, exactly. Vacation. You know, maybe my daughter's Justin Bieber tickets that are $3,000 each. She's putting all her money away. She's determined. Whatever it is that you want. Exactly. Now, why? Why do you think we should put money away first? What are some things that could happen, God forbid? Job loss, an unexpected emergency, whether it's a health issue or a homeowner issue, something can happen. We have to make sure they recommend it before the 2008 crash. You referenced that 2 to 6 months. Now, because it's taking longer to find a job, it's more like 8 to 12 months of savings, liquid access to help pay for your bills, which, as we all know, in this economy, that's harder to do. So it's important to pay ourselves first. Very important. Okay, so let's see. If you could, let's turn to page, I believe it's 6. Yes, I want to go over this. And then we're going to actually flip back, believe it or not, that's how it's designed. Page 6 are some tips to help you basically consider, is it a need or a want? Do I need it? Yes, I need it because I really want it. No. Do I need to have this or do I want it? Think about how many times you eat out, not just at restaurants, lunch. Brown bagging versus going out to lunch every day, that right there could save you a ton of money a month. Do we smoke? How many smokers in the room? Yay. We have no smokers. That's a humongous expense, so I guess I don't have to do the lecture on that. Cell phones are an expense. I think that's more of a want than a need. Most of us feel we need it versus want. You know, a lot of us can reevaluate our cable bills. We have all these wonderful premium packages. Do we really need that? You know, there's just little tiny ways. Now, direct deposit. If you're working, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's a way to get the money right in as cash immediately into your account, and then you can, like I said, transfer it right out the next day into a savings account. Pay yourself first. Pay your bills on time. Why do you think that's important?
To avoid late fees in your credit report.
Higher interest for credit cards. They'll, boom, first time you're late, they can go from 3% up to 29%. It's legal. Shouldn't be, but it is. A fee. You know, you don't pay your bill on time, or you don't make a deposit in a bank on time, and you overdraw your account, banks are going to charge you anywhere from $30 to $35 each time you overdraw. So it's important to really have a handle on your finances and pay everything on time. And then, of course, that leads to the repossessions and the debt. We don't want that. We want to eliminate that. Check cashing places. A lot of people don't believe in banks. They feel, you know what, took a hit. I don't want to go to a bank. I don't want the fee. You know, banks have this reputation of fees. There are ways to get free accounts. But because the fees, they want to go and cash their check every week, and they pay for it. Why? That's an unnecessary fee. You need to work with a bank to figure out how you can avoid service fees and make it a free account. And they recommend here, if you get a raise from your employer, pretend you didn't get it and just put it away. You paid off a loan, keep making that loan payment, put it away. It all adds up. Tiny little changes in your daily activities that really can add up. If you get a gift that's cash, put it away. Avoid debt. I know somebody over here mentioned that they were able to keep their debt down. That's awesome. That's really, really a big step in saving. If you can keep your debt down, it's less bills you have to pay. That's more money you can put away. And then, God forbid, you lose your job. You don't have to worry about all these bills hanging over your head. Paying for college. That's a tough one. That's a debt, though, I don't think we can avoid unless we saved a real lot of money and we were able to invest it. God bless, some people can do that. But there are ways, and we'll talk about a little bit later on ways and little savings vehicles to save for college for children. Buying and remodeling a house, that's a debt. Buying a house, it's a money pit. I don't know if you saw the movie, but it's a money pit. The mortgage, you're always fixing something. There's always money to put into the house. You know, lawn care, everything. Same thing with the car. You need a car to get to work? you have to maintain that car. So there's some debt that we cannot avoid. Let's see, it recommends when you get a tax refund, make sure you put that away. 401ks, how many of you in here are currently employed steadily? Does your company offer a 401k when you participate? Excellent. That's especially if they match. I mean, obviously you're going to do it anyway, but if they match, that's even better. That's a great way to put money away for retirement.
Could I just ask a question?
Sure.
401kers in the room. Those of you who don't do it, do you manage your 401k? Because this is something that, I mean, managing is, I'll put parentheses around it. Do you watch the results on a regular basis? Yeah, this is something, I'm talking to myself as I speak to the room. Joe, don't do what I do what I say, right? That's what my dad always said. It is something that now with the variety of choices, hopefully you'll have some choices within your 401k that you can make. Are they restricted or you have at least 4 or 5 choices? You do want to at least look at the quarterlies. If you can't do it every month, God bless you, I understand, I can't either. But once a quarter, you know how you have your chore day? Everybody has a chore day or some, Bill's day or whatever you want to call it. A chore day, I make myself look at my 401k. I make myself, not read the prospectus, those are horrible. I can't read it. I don't know a human being alive who can read those things except maybe the people who wrote them. But I do highly recommend that you look at it at least once a quarter. Watch the movement. Because particularly in your situation where you have to kind of recover 8 years, that's a short period of time. So I don't know if you're in aggressive now because you're trying to make it up, but if you are in aggressive, then you do have to even watch it more. When I said aggressive, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, more aggressive investments versus more stable, kind of slow growth, but very steady. So when you're younger, they typically use aggressive because you have lots of time to make it up. But as you get older, you tend to shift into more conservative because you can't afford to lose it. You need it for retirement. So that's just the general. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm not officially licensed. But
We're going to talk about
investments
stocks.
at 401k.
We're going to actually go into stocks and mutual funds and 529.
Good,
So we're just
good.
going to touch on them. We're not, because we're not licensed, we can't speak in depth about them, but we're going to explain what they are, just so you all know. I want you to flip back to page 4 for me, please. And just referencing page 6 and 7, just take a minute to write down on the bottom section of that form, what are some tips you're going to do, what are some things differently, I should say, that you're going to start to do to help you save for your financial goals? Just a couple things that you can incorporate. Now, flipping to page 8, I wanted to talk about, we said pay yourself first. Whatever you can save, save it. Wanted to explain a little bit about how your money can grow or not grow. We have $1,000 stashed in our sock, inside of our sock drawer. We leave it there for a year. We're not earning anything on it. At the end of the year, it's going to be worth $1,000, the same exact amount that you had stuffed in that drawer. Now, if you talk about interest and the power of compounding, you take that same $1,000, right? And it earns an annual compound. That's just compounded annually, where the interest just grows annually. There's various different types, annually, monthly, or daily. So if you take a compounded annually interest rate at the end, and it's a 5% rate, you're gonna have $1,000. What is it, $1,050. So it's better than having just $1,000. But if you are seriously thinking about starting a savings plan, you want to try to find a bank or a financial institution that gives you daily compounded interest. And what that means is, today I put in $1,000, it earns interest. It's going to grow interest and that $1,000 the next day, and that's just going to keep happening. So you're going to earn interest on your interest, and it grows quicker. And if you turn to, I guess it's page 10, it'll show you an example of that. If you were to put $1 away every single day and you didn't earn interest on it, you'd have $365. Daily compounding at the end of the year, you'd have $9 more. Doesn't sound like a lot, but look at 30 years. If you put $1 away every single day for 30 years, you'd have $10,950. But if you put it into an interest vehicle that had 5% daily compounding, it would be $25,450. That's a big difference. That's huge. So you want to look for a daily compounding vehicle. Any questions about that?
What mechanism would you use to deposit $1 a day though, to get the compounding? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you have to actually go to the bank with $1 every day, which you're not gonna do.
You're not going to do that, so you take 30 days, maybe you do $30 every paycheck every single month, and
Okay.
you start at that level. Right.
Okay.
Great question. Unless you want to drive to the bank.
I don't know.
We'd love
Maybe
seeing
when
you.
I'm-
Come on in. That was
And the other thing I wanted to say, this savings tip under 2, U.S. savings bond can be deducted, I'm sorry, can be purchased through payroll deduction. You actually can't do that anymore.
I was just going to say, this also says
Yeah.
FDIC is $100,000 or more. We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Terrible.
It's actually, they increased that to
Yeah.
200.
I know.
You have to do, that's
really
a good
hard,
point.
because you get to go online and register with the treasury.
U.S.
department.
savings bonds, we're going to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that, but you can buy them. It's a savings vehicle that you can purchase right from the government, and you used to be able to do it at a payroll deduction. You have to now just do everything online with USTreasury.gov, I believe it is.
Yep.
And it's just a way you purchase a savings bond for $25. The face value it grows is double. So we'll talk about that, but that's a good point. Okay. So we got the gist of the compounding. Want to talk about the types of accounts that we have.
Teresa, if I can interrupt this real quick.
Absolutely.
So I've taught a lot of seminars and so forth. If there's one thing that you walk out this door with and say, I captured this information from attending the seminar, it's the power of interest compounding. So don't demean it. Don't think it's that not that important. It is critically important, because the way interest compounding works is it either it's going to work for you or it's going to work against you.
That's right.
So from the standpoint of savings, putting money in savings, putting money in investments, obviously that's where you're putting money away and you're earning interest and someone's paying you for your money, correct? However, when it comes to debt, most debt carries interest compounding as well. So you carry a balance on a credit card, they're compounding that 18%, 29%. If you read the fine print, sometimes they're charging you that interest on the day you make the purchase, right? So the idea as you're building wealth, as you're trying to accumulate savings, is you want more money working for you than against you. So when you look at what you have contributing towards your savings, you want more contributing in that facet than having the debt work against you and pay it down. So they gave some examples in this brochure, but something that I did when I used to train this or teach this course similar several years ago, I used to bring this analogy. I have a son, I have a daughter. When they were born, I put $10,000 in an investment vehicle. As soon as they were born, before they even turned 1, $10,000. I had one goal in mind. When they turn 30, whatever's in that account, I'm going to give them whatever's in that account. Now, if you take that $10,000, which was just one lump sum payment, I didn't add another dime to that account. When they turn 30, if I average just an average rate of return, I will have approximately $130,000 to give them on their 30th birthday. So I'm going for Father of the Year, right? When they turn 30 and I'm handing over this check, I'm going for Father, hopefully they say, oh my gosh, Dad, I can't believe this. But all I did was just take advantage of interest compounding. I made that one lump sum payment and I just let it ride. I have to watch it, right? Because I can't have it in bad investments. I got to be earning a certain return on the money. But the idea is to try to maximize those dollars so that I would be able to do something at age 30 for my children, which I think is a good part of where they're starting their lives, to buy a home, get settled and so on and so forth. So that 10,000 going to 130,000, that's how powerful that interest compounding is. But I see a lot of people who go the opposite route, and instead of putting that 10,000 away, they've spent the 10,000 that they don't have, and that's on the debt side. Now they're paying someone for that. And you know, now, at least in credit card statements, you know, they have to tell you, you know, how many years it would take for you to pay this off if you made the minimum payments and so forth. That's pretty astonishing when you really get it, right? So as you leave, as you go home and think about this, what I really want you to really get is am I taking advantage of interest compounding? Is it working for me or is it working against me presently? And if I'm going to build savings and wealth, I gotta honestly turn that around if I'm too far in the debt structure and get more money working for you. So, you know, it's definitely a powerful thing, and sometimes we don't look at it that way. I wish, you know, I made a grave mistake when I was in college. I thought, you know, I got my hands on some credit cards, you know, they were giving me, you know, Visa, MasterCards, student credit cards and so forth. And anyway, I thought, oh, this is great. I could, you know, I had a job, I could make the minimum payments and so forth. And I racked up, besides, you know, a little school debt and so forth, I had some credit card debt when I left College Shy. And it took me like 6 years to get that paid off. And I was kicking myself all along the way because I could have had that 6 years of payments going towards more of a savings or investment vehicle, and I would have had more money down the road. So definitely think about how interest compounding is affecting you on a day in, day out basis as far as when you're making purchases or saving choices and so forth. So
your point is very well taken, because remember the rates on debt versus the rates on savings?
Right.
Your debt's going to grow a lot faster at 18 and 29% than your savings at, you know, an average rate of return of 5%. So just think, your debt is going to get bigger quicker. And that's been the case for, I don't know, the last 30 years. So that's why you're going uphill when you're saving. It's real hard. But debt just rockets. Something to be very careful.
Food for thought.
Yes.
Excellent point, Kevin. Thank you.
For those of you who just came in, if you go out those doors and come around here, you can get some sandwiches and some cookies. Well, I don't know if you saw it on you.
Now we're going to talk about, just because we promised we would stick to the agenda, savings, the different vehicles that the banks have to offer. We have a savings account. A savings account is just something that it's a bank account. It's insured by the FDIC, the federal government. They used to insure your money up to $100,000. It's now $250,000, and that was back from the 2007-8 situation that our economy took a hit. They increased just to give people the feeling of security. It's just basically all financial institutions, savings account, thrift banks, commercial banks, they all offer, even credit unions, a savings account. And what the FDIC basically means, for those of you that don't know, is if the bank goes out of business, it's insurance that they'll get your money for you. They'll basically pay you. They'll make sure you get your money. So a statement savings account. Who knows what a statement savings account is? No. Okay, this is an account that earns interest, as we just spoke about. You receive a statement with it. It's a quarterly statement, and it lists all of your deposits, all of your withdrawals, the interest you earned, gives you a detailed summary. I'm going to read a description, and I want you to tell me what it is. I'm an account that you join to save money for a special reason. It could be a holiday, it could be a holiday savings, it could be a family vacation, or for college. These usually require you to make regular, steady deposits. What am I?
Christmas club.
Yes, they call them club accounts now because they have Christmas clubs, vacation clubs. They're kind of going away slowly, but we also have savings where it's similar. We require you to make a certain amount and you're saving for a specific reason. What am I? I'm an account where you leave your money for a certain period of time. It could be 6 months, 1 month, 2 years, 5 years. You call the term. you usually earn a higher rate of interest in me, and you promise to keep your money there. If not, you're charged a penalty to take your money. Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand, just shout it out. We're all friends. Very good. Certificate of deposit is for a set period of time. Okay, let's see. I usually pay a higher rate of interest. I require a higher minimum balance to earn interest. I pay a higher rate for higher balances. Yes, very good. And this last account, you must go to the bank to make transaction, and the teller will update your information for you. Passbook savings accounts are going away. You probably don't see them that much anymore. That's great. Very good. Now, there are some special accounts, and Kevin, I don't know, maybe you can answer this. IDA accounts, do we offer them? I'll give you a basic background of what they are, but I really don't know many banks that even offer them. An IDA account is an individual development account. Just to give you some knowledge, just as she had said earlier, knowledge is power. It's a match savings account. It's basically, it means that an organization like a foundation or a corporation, some main organization, adds money to the account. That's really all it is. It helps you build assets, and it's really the organization. They were really more done years ago, but the organization matches money for a specific reason, I should say. So whatever that reason is, they can say, okay, now all of you go open up. Not really that popular, but I just want you to know the term in case you ever hear it. Then they have ETA accounts, an electronic transfer account. Did anyone ever hear of that? The low cost, yes? Okay, it's a low cost savings account. They're usually through banks, credit unions. And the ETA usually helps you take care of Social Security payments, like SSI, supplemental income, veterans benefits. Those are usually the vehicles that, the reason that you would have an ETA account. Now, let's see on page, what is this, 14. This is 529 plan. Who has heard of a 529 plan? 529, and it tells you right it is. It's a prepaid savings program for higher education. That's where your college education comes in. So it's a great program. How young are your kids? You said you have little kids?
3 and 10 months.
You know what? Perfect time to start. It's never too young. Never too young. Should have done it when they were a month old like Kevin. But all joking aside, the 529 plans are a great vehicle. You put the money aside. It grows tax deferred, which is an amazing feature. You don't have to pay taxes on it. And as long as it's withdrawn for education purposes, let me stop there. Education purposes, you take the money out. It's good. Doesn't have to be mom or dad. It could be grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, brothers. It could be anybody that sets up the 529 plan for the child. And the savings can be applied to any college in the state. So if you want more information about that, I think it gives you a website here, irs.gov. It really goes into detail about it. It's a good way to save, and that's long term. So that's going something that you want to look at and keep track of it, but it's for the long term. You're going to have 16, 17 years before you're going to be touching it. So if you can set up an automatic savings plan in the 529, you'll have a nice chunk of change to help with college, and college is expensive. But it's much needed these days.
They already started SAT.
Good for you. I love it. Okay, who knows what an investment is? Tell me, what is an investment? Go ahead.
You invest your money, basically. Like you have to pick whatever you want to invest, and then you just plug your money. It can be savings account, or it can be like different kind of investments, more secure, or basically more risky.
Very good. It's a savings option that you purchase for future income or financial benefit. That's the official definition. Many banks now have brokers, and you can actually, work with a broker at a bank. You can go to a brokerage firm. There's many different options. There's a lot of e-trading online. You know, if that's something you're comfortable with, that's great, but, you know, it's just personal preference. Some people like to deal with an actual broker. Some people are savvy enough where they can go online and make their own investments. That's really your call. But when you're investing your money, there's a greater risk. You have a possibility of losing it, as we've heard, you know, when we were going around the room earlier. You have a possibility of growing it, as we heard Kevin say. So there's a risk when you're investing your money. Let's see, how do you think you can make money from investing? So, okay, good. Who said that, you? How can you make money on stocks?
Well, when you're investing and you watch stocks grow or daily,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a good time to sell it, yeah.
There you go. You sell it when it's up. You buy it when it's low, and you sell it when it's up. You're making money. But again, like you said, you have to watch it and you have to be on top of it. You can't just invest and forget about it, because who knows? 2 days later, it could be up, and that's the time to sell. That's great. There are other types of investments, which that was a great lead-in: stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. I'm sure you've all heard of them. Okay, excellent. Let's talk about stocks. When you buy stocks, they're shares. You're owning part of a company. That's just a basic. The company does well, they sometimes pay you a little bit of money. It's called a dividend. Dividends are basically, in a nutshell, it's part of the company's profit. So you're getting a chunk of the profit because you own their stock and own part of them. And then, as we said, another way to make money with the stock is to sell it when it's high, when it's up. You know, you buy it for $3 and it goes up to $13. Obviously, you're going to make a profit. Do you think that's a good investment option? Do you think it's a good investment option to buy stocks?
Can be risky. It is.
But, okay, you have student debt. Was that something that you should? If you pay your debt and you start building your wealth, I think that's a great idea. But right now, I think you focus on paying down your debt and you start building that wealth, and then, yeah, you can play around in the stock market. All right, let's talk about bonds. Who knows anything about bonds? Okay, sure.
Well, there are EE bonds and I bonds, and the I bonds seem to mature and earn more interest somehow than, more so than the EE bonds. And if you use them also for education, they're tax-free.
You're talking about U.S. savings bonds. I'm talking about like stocks and bonds.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know.
I think we're going to touch on those in a little bit, but that's great. You know a lot about them. Anybody else want to give it a whirl? Bonds are basically when you own, you purchase a bond, you're loaning money to a company. Or it could be a government. Depends on what kind of a bond you're buying. When you buy them for a term, for a period of time. The bond certificate promises the corporation, or like I said, the government, that you're going to repay, that they will repay you on a specific date. And it's usually a set fixed interest rate. They can range from 1 or 2 months all the way up to 30 years. So I guess that's where you come in and decide how long you want to invest your money. Corporate bonds have a little bit more of a risk. I think of some corporations that I wouldn't want to loan money to. They're no longer with us. And then there's savings bonds, as you had touched on. Savings bonds, you're basically, it's an investment and it's backed by the U.S. government. And right now, I can stand here in front of you and say that it's still a very safe savings vehicle to buy a U.S. savings bond. I said that recently at another seminar, and I basically had people throwing tomatoes at me. They're like, it's government, it's safe. Honestly, it's safe. It's easy and it's safe because, and you can buy in small increments. So if you want to save $25, you can purchase a face value $50 bond. A $50 bond that you purchase for half the amount of money. And yeah, no longer through payroll deduction. You get them through the website, the government website, USTreasury.gov. So what do you think? Do you think bonds are safe? And I mean the corporate bonds. Do you think that that's a safe investment? Could be, right? Very good. Could also be a big risk if the company goes out of business. Not going to necessarily get paid back. Savings bonds, I told you they're safe, so I'm not even going to ask you that, but I want you to leave here knowing that they're very safe. Then we have something called a treasury bill. They're U.S. government securities. They're usually $1,000. That's, you know, they can be more, but they're $1,000, and they mature in a year or less. So let's see. Okay, very good. And now I want to talk about mutual funds. Who's heard of mutual funds? Okay, very good. It's a managed company. It's a collection of money. It's basically a group of investors. It's all of us in this room pulling our money together and investing. They take the money and they might put some of it in stock, some of it in bonds, mix it up, stir the pot, and then we have a mutual fund. The mutual fund manager, the person that oversees that mutual fund, they determined when we're going to buy and sell. So we're kind of just saying to them, hey, you know what, that's why we have a prospectus. Every time you buy a mutual fund, they send you a piece of paper that explains about the mutual fund manager, what they're looking to invest in. It explains everything in it. And sometimes they're really complicated to read, but if you do invest and have mutual funds, I challenge you to go home and read them. Because it'll explain how it's diversified, which means how much is in bonds, how much is in stock. Do you think that's a good long-term investment if you were going to save for your children? Do you think a mutual fund would be a good investment?
Well, it's more risky, but it's more versatile time.
Right, and you can find a fund that, I mean, yeah, they're little, so you could be a little aggressive. Meaning you could put it in something that's mainly leaning more towards the stock side. That's okay, but then as they get closer to college, you're going to want to tone that down so you don't lose it. And then maybe put it into a mutual fund that has a balance of stocks and bonds, because bonds will offset the stocks, the risk. Then we talked about owning a home. That's an investment. That's an awesome investment. Do you own a home?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking about being a homeowner. It's a great investment. Owning a home is really, it increases in value. I mean, we all took a dip. I know back in, I want to say it was, 2006, the prices were through the roof. The amount of money on paper that they were telling me I could have received for my house, I should have sold it and ran. But I didn't, because I like my house. But it appreciates, you build equity, and you have a nice nest egg for yourself. Now, equity, do we know what equity is? Who wants to explain equity? Yes, thank you.
Equity is basically if you pay off the home, and that's the value that you have additional to the home. So if the prices goes up, you have equity in the home, the current value of the market. If the market goes down, then the equity goes down with it.
Excellent. You have a $400,000 home and you take out a $100,000 mortgage. The difference between the total price and what you owe on it is the equity in your home. And if the market dips down, and let's just say it drops to $200,000, you have less equity. If it goes up, and it's all on paper, but that's what the banks look at. They look at the value of your home versus what you owe against it, and that's your equity. Owning a home is a very good investment, and some people do what they call flip homes, which they buy them for investment purposes. Fixer-uppers, they fix them up and turn around and sell them, and they take that $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 profit, buy another one, fix it up, and they just keep building their wealth that way. So it could work. So how do you decide what's best for you? How do you know what's the best thing to invest in? You don't? All right, well, I guess you got to stop and evaluate how much am I looking to save? What am I looking to save for? Am I looking to save for a $3,000 vacation, or am I looking to fund, a major trip to, Europe, and I'm going to just go all over? Or am I looking to buy a house or fund college? What is it? Retirement? That's really what you have to ask yourself. How long can I take the money that I have, or the money that I'm going to build up, and leave it? You have to think about that. That's a very important question. And you have to think. It's a personal question that every single one of us would answer differently. How do I feel about risking my money? Some of us would be fine with it because they're thinking, oh great, the bigger the risk, the more I'm going to make. And others would be like, oh, I got burnt already. I'm not risking my money. And I happen to fall into that category with you. So I feel your pain. But you have to it really is a personal decision. And that's where you can work with somebody and find out where you are, what stage you're at. Did you
I just
want
wanted
add?
to address the retirement because I know there were a couple of people too.
Yes.
Considering it, and I also wanted to speak to the younger people here who retirement's the farthest thing from your mind. Just a little thought, because I had a wonderful personal advisor years ago who said to me, Cynthia, you don't want to outlive your money. When I say that, what I mean is outliving your savings that you've saved for retirement leaves you basically older. If you're in an older state, it's harder to work, maybe you can't even work at all, and you don't have the money. So when you have an opportunity, the young folks here, to get involved in any kind of savings program, 401k, please do so, because it's real hard to look out 50 years and say, I'm not going to be able to work. But you won't be able to work, and you're going to need those pennies. Now that message also works for all of us sort of in the middle. That maybe you need to even save more than you thought of because you're going to live longer than you think you are too. Thank God to our, our wonderful medical system and a lot of things. Most of us are going to live a lot longer than, our grandparents and our parents. So the old formulas that you might read about if you self-educate on the topic, they say, you have to save to have 15 years or something. That might not be long enough. Because what happens if you live 25 years and you've saved for 15? You're now 95 years old and you're trying to work? I don't know, but I plan to try to retire somewhere in there. My mother hasn't yet, and she's 87, so I don't know if I ever will either, but it's amazing. You just really want to remember, don't outlive your money. Or don't plan to have enough money for as long as you have. And that's always a wonderful problem to think about. So just wanted to add that.
Excellent point. Yeah, I think those are the two things we can never save enough for: retirement and college.
Yeah, right.
Never enough. And if you happen to have left over from college, put it towards your retirement. Okay, I want you to turn to page 5 in your guide. The bottom part talks about the 3 questions I just asked you to kind of self-evaluate. I'll let you fill that out on your own. But I want you to take a moment to just write down, pay yourself first. What are you going to do now to save for your goals? Think about right now, what do you think you're going to implement immediately? What are you going to do by the end of the month? And what will you do by the end of the year to help you save for your goals? Whatever your goals are that you wrote down at the beginning of the course. Well, that really concludes the course, but I just want to leave you with, I know we covered a lot of information. We did cover a lot. We talked about the overview of savings, paying yourself first. We talked about some tips, and I didn't go through all of the tips, but the tips are on page 6 and 7. You really should review them. Maybe highlight the ones that you can implement immediately to help you start saving some money. Talked about basic savings accounts and basic investments. We got into the basics of it. And then made you think about what is best for you. How are you going to decide your next steps and what you're comfortable with as far as investing? So hopefully, by the end of this course, which is now, you were able to realize that it's very important to save. And I'm here to answer any questions. I thank you. You're a great group of interactive people. It was very nice meeting you. And if anybody has anything, please feel free.
Well, they have time set aside for the room, so if you
Excellent.
all have, I know we were broad brushing in a lot of categories, and I don't know you got a home ownership question. And
There's 4 of us here, by all means. Yeah, if you want to meet one-on-one, we could.
We could take, if anybody wants to ask
General questions
first,
and then do
we'll leave
individual.
the last half an hour for individual.
Absolutely, that's
personal
great.
questions, so you can ask something that you prefer to ask in private. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay, half an hour open questions, and then we'll be here for another half hour for personal.
I know, you have a question, go ahead. She's telling me you have a question. Okay.
So we just want to see if you can tell us a bit more about the 401k.
Yes, that, we can say that for, like a one-on-one. Well, I guess in general, we could talk about 401k. 401k is we said it was a retirement savings vehicle, and it's usually employee sponsored. So you're working, if your company offers it, if you're not taking, if you're not participating, I highly recommend you do it, because it's money that comes out of your paycheck. You can elect the amount. You can do before taxes up to a certain amount, and you can contribute after tax a certain amount. And usually your company dictates how much that amount is, up to 6%. Some companies will allow up to 10% of your paycheck, and you don't feel it. It comes out, and you might get pinched the first time, but it really isn't much, and they take it out of your paycheck, and it goes into this savings vehicle. But that's really an individual, what it's invested in. I can tell you, personally, mine was an all stock until 2008. I let it climb back up a little bit. 2008, the market took a dip. As we all know, the whole economy took a dip. It took a big dip. And I let it come back up a little bit. It didn't quite get to where it was, and then I diversified it, which means I have some of it in stock, some of it's in bonds. I have it just all, some of it's in like this really stable, boring, earning 3% fund. That's a personal preference, but we can talk to you offline about what you want to invest in, and that we can definitely do.
I can like move it so like traditional IRA and all the other ones, because it seems also more safer. Because like 401k, there's a rumor that they may drop, like whenever with the money you put in, that you can still.
It can drop based on what you haven't invested in.
Oh, okay.
That's what the rumor is. But yeah, I definitely want to talk to you too after online, because I want to get a little bit more of a personal background so we can advise you a little bit better. Did I see a hand up over here? I thought you. No. Anybody else? Yes.
When it comes to looking at your own investing, what are the main things you focus on at first when you're making that step?
Budget.
Even when you're not living on your own.
You know what? I am going to take your email address because I have a budget. Like, it's basically a worksheet that tells you, here's every single month, this is what I'm spending my money on, rent, guesstimate what you're going to spend on food, or actually set an amount that you're going to spend based on here's what I make, here's what I'm going to spend, and here's what I want to save. It's a real one-page, simple budget worksheet that I think would really benefit you if you're just getting on your amount. So if you want to, on this form right here, if you want to write your name, your phone number, and your email address, I'll make sure I email that to you tomorrow. Sure. But I guess the first thing is to figure out what you make. What your fixed, definite, every single month I have to pay this. Figure out what you can save and get it into a savings account.
For those of you who have, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to sub one in until.
I just wanted to ask, so does Sovereign Bank offer an account with daily compounding?
That's my question.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Nina can talk about the rates and all, because she is our local branch manager. She wanted to know if we offer, which we do, a savings vehicle that has daily compounding.
We have right now, it's called triple year interest. It pays 0.66 compounding daily. And what we do is we force you to save money on a monthly basis. We could set up for $100 each month from a checking account. We pull the money out. And as that money grows, then you could, because you're still young, you could still meet with a financial advisor and invest money there.
If you were to not have the money, would you get an overdraft fee moving that money to your savings?
No, we'll move it if you don't have it.
Don't have it, doesn't get moved.
And you had a question to us, so you're here.
That was my question.
Yeah, oh, yes.
And the money's
It's a good one, and you should ask every bank that question. Always ask.
Because there are some banks that will take it and charge you.
And charge you.
And the money is liquid, so if an emergency arises, you can always pull it out.
Does everybody who has a 401k take the maximum percentage? Quick poll. Huh?
I was not. I actually just started a new job. I had to restart the form, so I said I have one. It's just because I just started, I haven't reached. What's that?
Yeah.
Do the math.
He will.
I was actually planning on it this
Yeah.
time around, is doing
The
the max or
employer,
close to
when
it.
we say the max, it's usually around 10% of the pay. In other words, 10% of that paycheck is set aside before your government takes your taxes.
Yep.
Well, they'll take the taxes later though, right?
Yes, they'll take the taxes.
Take it
when
on the
you-
retirement.
When you pull your money out of your 401k.
When you retire and you
But
pull it
the
out,
theory,
they'll take the
they
taxes.
take the money. The theory of the 401k is you set it aside when you're young, and then it accrues interest, tax-free, you don't pay any taxes. When you take it out, the theory is you're older and you're at a lower income rate, so you pay less tax. That's the theory. I mean, and it tends to work really well. Anytime you, actually, for those of you who don't know, if you have an emergency situation, I don't know if you've had to tap your 401k, once you're 55, you can withdraw funds without any penalty if you get in an emergency. So, you know, it's not like you can't get to your money until you actually can legally, you can legally withdraw it at 55 without the 10% penalty. If you take it out before that, they whack you.
Most employees, employers, they match regularly. Like
Yeah.
we have 3%, 5%, so it's free money. If
Yeah.
you leave it, it's free money that someone's actually giving you.
Yeah, in the past, I had as much as the match was.
Yeah.
You know, which,
Most people do what the employer will match from 0 to 10% usually, depending on the culture of the company. If they're a nice company, they're going to pay you more, and if, you know, whatever. Or if employment, whatever your industry is, you know, if it's harder to get employees, they'll pay you a little higher. But the typical range that I've seen over the years is between 3% of the deduction and 5%. I've not seen anything higher than 5, even at very prestigious, well-known, reputable firms. What I'm saying to you is you can deduct 0 to 10. I always say take as much as you can, because, interestingly enough, if you sit down and do the math, it's painful because it's hard to figure out. But if you do the math, you're actually going to walk away with just as much take-home. And you're going to, because what happens when it's taken out before taxes is it reduces the amount of your taxable income, so you pay less taxes. So the formula works in your favor.
Yeah, let me ask a crazy question though.
Yeah.
What if the tax rates were to go up a lot between now and when you retire? So you're risking.
Who can?
Well, okay.
There's enough variables to worry about, much less that.
You're better off with a Roth.
However, as you,
You can-
when
yeah.
when you're about ready to take that money, you're typically not working anymore, right? So your taxable income when you're in retirement years typically is going to be far less, or you hope it would be as equal, but typically you're not making at the same income levels as you were prior. So your tax rate still may be lower, and when obviously tax rates can go up, and that can
Who can
bounce that out of realm. But usually when you go into retirement, your income is more controlled and it's not as high as it was. So you're typically at a lower tax rate, so you should be getting taxed less. But if rates, yes, if it went up considerably, yes, you could potentially get taxed. That's where maybe like the Roth IRA is a great investment vehicle, because in a Roth IRA, you can make an investment annually. You're taxed on that money this year, right? That you do it, and then it gets to grow through interest compounding till retirement years, and then when you take it out at retirement, you pay no taxes on it taking out of retirement. So it's a great investment vehicle, and you can, you might want to get some advice on this, but you can typically do a 401k as well as do Roth contributions as well. So anyway, it's a great.
I'm just saying, yeah, it seems unlikely, but in theory,
Yeah, in theory, you're absolutely right.
Correct.
Although they haven't gone up for a while.
So it's after-tax money that goes into the Roth, that's the difference? Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
So basically, you're taxed today, and you're allowed to accumulate all the interest compounding and so forth, and at the end, as you take it out, you're not taxed then. Where a traditional Roth IRA, which is still offered, I don't know.
You mean traditional IRA?
Traditional IRA, right? Excuse me. Traditional IRA is you put the money in today, and then when you go to take it out, you're going to get taxed on it. So the Roth is a great investment vehicle, especially if you're thinking
And you want to modify your fear of the tax increases, it'll offset that.
Do most companies offer 401k?
Yeah, most of the larger ones, you know.
Most of them
sometimes-
offer it in place of pension plans.
Yes.
That's going
Yes,
away.
that's a great point.
I don't
And the
know.
average Montclair State graduate will have maybe 4 or 5 jobs, unless they work for a school district and work there forever until you get a pension. That's why a lot of people going into public sector, because you're guaranteed almost a pension, you know, off of your salary. Any other company, you work for an up-and-coming company, you're gonna get a 401k, and that's it.
He makes an excellent point. There's a reason why we haven't talked about pension plans in this presentation. There are many different
There
kinds
aren't
of them,
any
but there are so few of them. As companies merge, they oftentimes go away from that into something else. And of course, you know, you've read the news about firms that have not met their pension obligations, so you kind of left on the hook there if you have. So it's better to plan to save for yourself. If you get a pension plan, God bless you, stay there.
I've got a question, but I don't want to stir up a whole can.
That's all right.
But
We're here for
I'm probably
controversy as
good,
well as-
but why the heck would I want to invest in any of your, you know, the bank products? Because, you know, if I invest in any of them, even like a CD where you're offering a higher interest, you're tying up your money. And that's being eaten away if the economy goes up. If you're in a more fluid account, you're getting almost nothing. So I might as well put it in my mattress and I have ready access to the money. And I have an instant ATM.
anything.
I mean, it's heresy that I speak that, but
It goes back to
there's no
heresy.
logic to what your business these days on a retail basis.
Yeah, so to kind of answer your question, I think everybody needs to have certain allocations and certain investment and savings vehicles, right?
Yes.
So no one is, I would hope no one would take all their savings and everything that they're investing and put it in just one type of investment. You typically want to diversify what you're saving, right? So you're right. So you're probably not holding a lot of money in a banking retail product, whether that's checking, savings, or CDs, because the interest rates right now are extremely low. Where, heck, when I started in banking, 20-something years ago, the passive savings account was 5%. You could invest in a 1-year CD at 8%. And I remember as a branch manager back then, customers coming in and complaining to me that was too low of a rate. And so now I can't even imagine what some of those customers would be thinking in today's rate environment. But where the banking traditional product lies is really where you're going to keep some of your liquid funds, your emergency funds, in a safe place, and that's probably about what you're doing. And then you're going to diversify away from that and go bonds or go other investments, mutual funds, and so forth to try to increase your percentage and so forth. And eventually at some point, if you look at the history of the interest rate cycle, we're obviously in a very low interest rate cycle now, have been for several years. At some point, that interest rate cycle has to turn. It has to.
Why?
So
I want to know why. No, just because it happened in the past. We're in the 21st century, and there's no new economic theory. Everything is based on 20th century economics.
Right.
I'm waiting to see that. Everybody says that. And I haven't seen that.
I think you're going to see it because we're so kind of in the status quo of really low interest rates and so forth. But as more money gets fed into the economy, I mean, obviously we don't know what the end result's going to be, but the typical sentiment is that as more money is flowing in and it's pretty much free to a certain extent. That's cause for inflation and so forth. And then vehicles, as far as how to control inflation, has always been, raising rates and so forth. So that's why you typically would see a upswing in interest rates. I mean, there's no way we stay where we're at now. We may never go as high as we've been in the past. In fact, I used to, 5 years ago, I used to make the argument that people were worried about, inflation getting to 9-10% and home mortgages going that high and so forth. And in all honesty, my personal opinion, this is not my bank's opinion, but my personal opinion is that we probably could never get there. And the reason why is because there's so much government debt out there that as interest rates continue to rise, they have to pay that. They're paying on that money, right? So as it gets to 9%, all this, $1 trillion of debt, they got to be able to pay that, and that could basically bankrupt a country. It could bankrupt, So I don't think it ever gets that high again, just because of where we are. But who knows what's going to take place? But there's still going to be an interest rate cycle. I don't know how high it will go up. Maybe it only goes. If you figure we're at 3.5% mortgage rates these days, which are tremendous. Does that mean that the high on mortgage rates somewhere down the road will be 5.5%? Maybe it goes up 2%. I mean, we don't know, but we'll see a bump, most definitely. And another point is kind of a new point at this juncture of interest rates. But I used to also tell people about the bankers, tell bankers secrets and so forth. And so one of those used to be, people. There's still a large portion of the population that invested in CDs. And so the point that I was trying to make to people, and I was in banking, and the bank probably didn't like this, is that if you're investing in CDs, you want to almost invest in the opposite of what the bank is advertising in the papers. Okay, so let me kind of prove my point here. So the bank is pricing their products based on what they think interest rates are going to do down the road. So if they think interest rates are going to go higher down the road, what do you think? What type of products do you think the bank's going to offer? Long-term products, absolutely. And so the banks are almost going to predict. Is a great predictor of when they think interest rates are going to go up, they're going to start advertising longer-term CDs and so on and so forth. Because if they can lock your money in today at a lower rate than what it's going to be in the future, guess what? They save money, right?
That's what I was telling you before. Right. Some of those deals are not good. Right. You're going to pay higher interest on it.
Correct. And vice versa. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen now, but vice versa would be if they think interest rates are going lower, they're going to go short term on you. They're going to offer 4-month CDs and 6-month CDs and really try to get your money in there, because then they can reprice your CD quicker at a lower rate. So I always used to, my rule of thumb for people was always when the bank is going and advertising longer term rates, my approach to my customers, just one-on-one, obviously, and whether they accepted my advice or not, was always to go 60% the opposite way. Have 60% of your funds going the opposite direction, and 40% keep your 40% going with your long term, because no one's ever perfect as far as predicting things. And then vice versa, if you think it's going the other way, and that way you're maximizing the return on those dollars. And so that's something I always share. But I mean, today's interest rate environment, when you're talking, an 18-month CD right now could be at 1%. I mean, it's hard to really worry too much about that at the moment. But somewhere down the road, do that. And if anything, it's a good thing, just as you're looking in the paper and seeing what banks are doing as far as advertising, it might give you a sense of what you think is going to be happening down the road. Because believe me, every bank out there has plenty of insight from an economic standpoint of what they think and what everything's projecting out to be, right? So just something to pay attention to, maybe somewhere down the road.
That's a little secret. I love it.
But it's kind of the banker's little secret that I share. But in essence, my job and our job as at the bank is I need to maximize your return. Whatever I can do for you to maximize your return is what my goal needs to be. Because if you're happy with the money that you're earning, and obviously the bank has investment products as well. I mean, all banks are in that arena these days. Then then if we're doing a good job maximizing the dollars that you have with us, then obviously you're going to stay with us and hopefully refer friends as well. So that's how we're going to grow in the future and so forth. So that's the main point.
Is that what you meant when you said banks lost money for me? Is that kind of what you were referring to when you said that earlier in the beginning?
Well, there's a distinction between regular banking products, and then the bank has gone into investment products.
Investments, yeah.
And then you have
Investments, a whole
to
separate-
figure out, what, and they put everything into that guise of investment products and bank stuff, and it's all intertwined, number one. I find most bank investment advisors to be somewhat second rate. That's why they're with banks, and they're not, doing it with brokerage firms. They're driven, in that. And if you trust them, you're going to run into some.
Well, I think just like in a brokerage firm, you could get a one-off.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunate situation.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
That's
so I mean,
correct.
we
you have
do
to have
free
some
second look, so I
rapport and all
strongly
that.
advise,
But on the whole, the trend is, their main business is not investment, but banking. So, you want to go where the specialty is. You don't go to a shoemaker to get your clothes cleaned, that sort of thing.
The other point that I'll drive home with that too is don't ever listen to one person.
Correct.
Don't do it. I mean, you're going to sit across from many people in your lives that are going to say, I got this great investment for you, and here's where I think you should put your money, and so forth. And obviously ask them why they think that's the case, and so on and so forth, right? But I would, again, my bank would probably hate me for saying this, but I'm never going to sign on the dotted line on that first appointment where they're going to do their presentation and they're going to give me their advice, their opinion. What my advice would be you get that opinion, and everyone says go for a second opinion. I'm going to tell you get 3.
Yeah.
Okay? That's my advice to everybody in this room. Get 3. Because you're going to get one person to tell you one thing. You're going to get another person that
We'll tell you the opposite.
But they find out what this other person has told you, and they're going to try to figure out maybe a way, can I one-up that person in some way? And then if you go for a third, then you're going to find out kind of what the value is of that investment and so forth. So I would always encourage you, never sign on the first presentation. Do your homework first. Get a couple of different opinions before you make an investment. And then even if you trust the person, like you've been with someone for 10 years, you trust them. I'm still going to tell you, as much as you trust that person, go get your second and third opinion. Just play safe. It's your money, not theirs, right? So that's extremely important. Kind of moving forward, I just think it's critical if you're going to be successful as far as making investments and so forth. If you rely on one person, I share this story with people at work when I put them through some training when I'm talking to them. I got married, and I guess because I got married, my name got published somewhere, and some investment guy called me up and said, and basically sold me an investment. I didn't know rhyme or reason, and guess what I did? I signed. I signed on the first presentation, basically. I was ready to go. Let's do it, So I signed. I kind of left that alone, and it wasn't a lot of money, so thank goodness that was the case. But I never heard from the guy ever again, ever. And so one day I read Money Magazine back then, and I was reading through Money Magazine. Anyway, I read in a magazine that the guy who sold me my investment was going to jail. Dear. Because of doing fraudulent things with customers' accounts and doing churning and stuff like that. And luckily, I didn't have enough money for him to have any serious venture with me, but he definitely ruined some other people's lives through the process. So that's why, even if you trust that person, it's always nice to get second, third opinion, and that way you can kind of protect yourself.
And most investment advisors work on commission.
Correct. Yeah.
And so it's to their interest that they maximize their commission and not necessarily your money.
Correct.
It's their money they want to make more money of. And then the second priority is helping you.
Right.
But their first priority is making as much commission as possible.
There's another group of advisors that are very vocal in all of our lives, and that's your parents, or your immediate family, or your brothers and sisters, whatever. I would caution you, be careful with mixing your financial affairs and family advice. Because if you don't follow them, you're wrong. And sometimes if you do follow them, you're wrong. And you can only create problems with your family.
Sometimes it's simple. If they don't have any money, that becomes a much simpler decision to
Well,
make.
obviously,
You don't do what
it's
they
easy
say.
in that situation, but it's like artwork. Everybody has an opinion. Your financial affairs are very much like that. So I just want to caution you, approach it very delicately. Don't shove them away because they'll feel hurt. But be careful. Mine, I let it go right through. Thanks, Mom, that's really good. Yeah, great advice, thanks. But be careful. Caution.
How do you can you obtain a Roth IRA on your own?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Do you just
Walk into a bank. And
okay?
say,
Does your bank do that?
Oh, sure.
Uh-huh. And what is it about people that are over 50 in the Roth IRA that you can contribute more or something, isn't it, when you turn 50? There's some kind of magical thing that happens.
The formulas I don't know.
There is, I don't know the exact amount, but you can do a catch-up.
Like your 401k,
5
you
or
do a
60
catch-up.
or something thereabouts.
I didn't know it was 50. I
No, 55 over 60.
55 for annuities, for 401k.
Right.
It's 50 for the Roth.
I don't know.
She knows,
I do
the
know
rich manager is 50.
50, yeah.
Your tax advisor would know the exact amounts, so I would call your tax advisor and ask them around.
How many people here use a tax advisor, by the way? Just out of curiosity. Sometimes they cost a little money, but sometimes they keep you out of trouble. I started going when I was young because I couldn't read I have trouble with paperwork. I have trouble reading it. I couldn't read the tax forms, and I wanted so much to do a good idea. I found a guy who did it for $100. And yeah, that's expensive, but I saved like $300. So think about it. You can get, even, I can't necessarily recommend the guys on the street, what do they call them? The H&R, right? I don't know. They're probably better than you doing it yourself, but I can't recommend them necessarily. Usually a referral is the best way to get money. But you're not going to know all the things that you're entitled to. And sometimes the cost of finding somebody who does, like the $100, the $500, whatever it is, how it depends on how complicated your taxes are, you can usually get it back. It's not going to end up costing you. So this is as soon as you can afford it. I know sometimes it's like, I don't have any money.